Hey everybody, good evening, happy Monday. Tonight we're going to talk about Mindset Monday as part of a new series that I'm going to do called the Connector Dots. I am a big fan of being a connector and a pharmaveator. Many of you know I'm a pharmacist as well, and I want to come to you live. My goal is to be sharing and connecting with you every day during the week around between 5 and 5:30 every day. To catch you as you're ending your day or approaching the end of the day, depending on where you live. We'll have some brief, candid conversations where I'll share some connector tips and some pharmavation insights for both healthcare, pharmacy, and life. And mindset is such an important topic, and I wanted to be able to cover that today. And my good friend and fellow metapreneur Sue Paul and I happen to be talking about the topic of imposter syndrome the other day, and it's come up a few other times recently. And I was looking up and read an article about in Forbes magazine. So I want to tell you a little bit about that. Have you ever experienced imposter syndrome? The definition is this inability, a persistent inability to believe that your success is deserved or that it's been legitimately achieved as a result of your own efforts or skills. So you just feel like you're an imposter. You're like a fake and somebody is going to figure it out. So let me know in the chats. I know many of you are connecting right now if you have felt this feeling of being an imposter. Well, I can tell you that I feel like an imposter all the time, so many times, from both in my personal life and in my career and in my business. And it's a constant thing that I want to overcome. Now, I do want to spend time talking about this today, but I do want to spend a moment and just recognize the tough times we've had and recognize the challenges that many people in our country have gone through over these last couple months, whether it is dealing with the racial unrest and challenges as we try to rise to the occasion to finally address the inappropriate behaviors and treatment of the Black population in our world. And so I'm very supportive of that and have spent a lot of time learning, reading, and educating on the topic. And I'm now going to be working on inequality project for patient care on an ASHP committee. So I'm happy that I'll be able to contribute in that way as well. Also seeing, the storms that have ravaged our country and now the wildfires. So I just want you to know that I am praying for you if you are being impacted by these storms in any way. And I just wish you the best. So while we're getting through that, many of us are still trying to move forward in our careers. And I feel like with all of this other stress happening, it's easy for that to then continue on in your professional life and feel less confident in yourself. And that's where I think the imposter syndrome comes into play. So many of you know I've been a pharmacist for decades now. I've been a healthcare leader in the pharma industry and in health systems, now a full-time entrepreneur, and I serve people to advance pharmacy practice, improve careers, and improve patient outcomes through strategic business planning to advocate for more roles and resources for pharmacists and our pharmacy team members. And I do that through coaching, consulting, as well as speaking. And I also have an online course called Pharmavation. So let's talk more about imposter syndrome. So I've told you what the definition is. Again, I have had this. I don't know that I officially knew the name for it in the past, but now it does have a name. And actually, not that I'm going to give you a history lesson, but it's been around and well researched for decades now. And it's something that, while it may be a little more common in women, definitely men experience this too. And we have doubts about our accomplishments, and it can hold us back from doing a lot of things. So where have I experienced this? Some people come to me and think, there's no way you could have imposter syndrome, right? You've excelled, you've been high senior level positions in a variety of organizations. You now have your own company. How could you possibly have imposter syndrome? And I do all the time. I honestly had imposter syndrome coming on to talk to you tonight. And it's what's held me back these last couple months because I have not come on as much as I wanted to. And it's because, I say to myself, well, who am I to share my information? Who am I to have people listen to me? But at the end of the day, what's gotten me through that is remembering what my mission and vision are. And that is, I do believe that we can increase the demand for pharmacists and improve patient care. And so that's what drove me to pursue this full time. And knowing that and keeping that in my head has helped me to overcome my fear that some people might not like what I'm saying right now, or might not appreciate it, or might not get value out of it. But if I can affect and improve the lives of at least one person, help somebody to advocate for a new position, then I have done my job. Historically, when else have I also had this where it was most prominent? Because I have moved in between industries, and I moved from health systems into the pharma industry and then back to health systems, with each of those transitions, I definitely thought that I didn't have enough skills, to do this. It was new to me. I had spent all this time in hospitals. How could I thrive in a pharmaceutical company? And so you start to have that feeling. And so we'll talk through some of the tips that are in this Forbes magazine. There's 15 tips. I don't like to spend too much time on these, so I'll go through those pretty quickly, but I thought I would go ahead and just list them all for your reference, and I'll put them in the notes on the post for you to reference as well. So with each of those that happened, and definitely like when I left pharma and went back to health systems, and and I know, and people actually, did tell me, and there are definitely thoughts of, I've spent a decade working in a pharmaceutical company. How can I come back and lead the clinical services for an academic health system? And I definitely had that in my head as well. But you focus on what you're good at, and you'll see that that's definitely one of the recommendations. Focus on the things that you can contribute, not the things that you can't. And that can get you through a lot. And it definitely helped me. And we definitely realized that there were skills that I gained working in the pharma company. And actually, I credit a lot of that strategic insight that I learned in pharma to the strategy and the insight and the real, innovative thinking that I have from my time in pharma. When you're working in that type of environment where it's a for-profit, faster pace, you have to make decisions and understand the finances and all of that. And I owe a lot to the time that I had there. And I do think it's led to some of my successes. So that's what I've had. I've definitely worked with my clients and students that I've coached, or students who've taken my courses who have experienced imposter syndrome. And we talk through it. They've found ways to move through it. And it is a lot about your mindset and really just retraining your mind to think in a positive way. So again, while this has been recognized more in women, or we think that, it definitely occurs in men and women equally, is what the research does show. So keep that in mind if my guys out there are listening. This can affect you as well. So this imposter syndrome really can occur, probably happens at least once to like everybody in their career. It's an important barrier to overcome. And so there's 15 things that Forbes recommends in their article that I was going to talk through. So first one, number one, is be your own booster. Say there's, nothing succeeds like success. So you want to focus, where have you made a difference? Like I said before, when have you contributed something? So focus on that. Find a mentor. Always a big fan of that. As you know, many of you know, when I do my career development planning discussions, and I often ask people, who here has a mentor? And I've been surprised by how many professionals I talk to don't have a mentor. So have a mentor, have a few mentors. It's good. And then at some point you may want to have a coach, but definitely at least have a mentor, because they can offer you some focus advice and support. They will be in your corner and supporting you. Also giving you the constructive criticism that you do need, but they will support you. The third one is they call rinse and repeat. This is, again, just really getting in your head and thinking about if you're feeling like an imposter, remember back to the times where you were successful and how did you get through that, and just rinse and repeat that. You did it before, you should be able to do it again. Their fourth is to hire a therapist. So when you're not able to come through these negative thoughts, if they are overwhelming you too much, then it may be time to actually talk to somebody. And counselors are very beneficial, and most of our healthcare plans include that. So I do highly recommend that. Befriend that insecurity is number 5. So everyone can have these feelings of insecurity and that incompetent feeling that we battle inside of ourselves. So instead of judging that as a flaw, define it as a growth opportunity, right? So instead of thinking of this feeling as being bad, identify the positive intentions that come out of it so that you can move through it. 6, set reasonable expectations. So to overcome imposter syndrome, you need to stop setting unattainable standards and expectations for yourself and thinking that factors such as luck or help are responsible for your success. Stop blaming your limitations for mistakes or failures. It's part of life and we have to deal with them. But the key here is to set reasonable expectations. I know for myself, I had planned to get a certain amount of things done this weekend, both personally and for my business, and I got about half of it done. So I felt good about that, but instead of beating myself up about not finishing the rest, I just realized that I probably did not have the right expectations given the amount of time I actually had to work on them. Number 7, let others lift you up. So oftentimes the people who have imposter syndrome, they are not thinking or not allowing other people to support them and give them input. So asking coworkers or leadership for input on how you're doing is one way to get out of those self-defeating beliefs. Who is your worst critic? Yep, it is you, and we need to stop doing that. This is one thing that relates to this topic, I know, is just think about, like, if you do something and you beat yourself up, you think about what would you say to your friend, your coworker, even your best friend, your spouse, if they did the same thing. You would probably not say anywhere near the critical things that you're saying in your mind. So let other people talk to you and help you lift you up. Number 8, track your own success. Keep a journal and reflect on the ways you've succeeded. This is definitely a high performance habit that you find from a lot of experts, is journaling and writing down what you are grateful for and where you succeeded is important, because sometimes we can just tend to focus on the negatives, and this is something you can always look back and do. I keep my journal in my OneNote just because I always have my OneNote phone with me. I don't tend to use paper journals. Number 9, take back control. So the author of this article says that they are really focused on changing their mindset is really the only way to end imposter syndrome. It's really a belief. And in my course in Pharmavation, the mindset bonus that I provide, we really do talk about the fact that mindset is a habit. It's habitual belief of your mind. And so instead of, like, we have habits that are good habits, brushing your teeth, things like that, your mindset is a habit. So you can change how you respond to things. And so you want to think about your successes and pick out them and identify those. You want to then become number 10 is self-aware. Boost your confidence by not losing it to imposter syndrome to start. Boost your self-awareness, and you can see the early signs of the imposter syndrome sneaking in, and you can address it before it takes over. 11, this is a common one that people talk about, and I feel like I've used this one, which is fake it until you make it. So imposter syndrome can be a normal thing, and it's, again, almost never are you going to know every single aspect of a job, a task, a function. You know, when I became a mother, when I became a wife, when I first became a director of a large team, it was not something I had done before. So you have to accept that, take your baby steps, learn, and accept it and fake it till you make it, at least from the outgoing confidence that you want to portray. Change your story, number 12. So if you feel out of place in your role and think you may be called out as a fraud, be aware that you are in great company. Many successful entrepreneurs have all dealt with imposter syndrome. So you want to rewrite your self-doubt into a positive story of how you use that to succeed and the learnings that you took from it. So again, we want to reframe this into an opportunity for learning and not focus on the negative aspects. Coming to the end, we have 3 more to go. Number 13, interpret the pattern with service. So this is an idea for the moments when you're feeling like an imposter. So instead of attempting to immediately solve a bigger psychological pattern, just interrupt the pattern. So you can't think about yourself when you're doing something for somebody else. Try to volunteer your action in a tangible, physical way. So interrupt that pattern by doing something for somebody else. Number 14, seek confidence outside the workplace. So you can build your confidence in many ways. It doesn't have to all be about work. You can get involved with other activities. I definitely talk about the 4 quadrants of life and having work-life balance, which includes both your personal career, yourself, your family and friends, and then your community. So that's how I like to simplify things and how I think about my life and trying to have balance in each of those areas. So it's important to find some information and positive feedback in those other areas. And then 15, I briefly mentioned this at the beginning for what I focused on, was focus on what you can give. Our brain does different things with fight or flight when we're stressed and nervous. So you want to quiet that brain by focusing on what you can do. Instead of saying like, will they like me? Say, what do I have to offer? Know that you are good enough and you can bring a lot to the table. So that's how you can focus on what you can give. So I don't see the time for how long we've been going today, but I know I like to keep these a little bit short. So definitely 15 minutes is usually what I like to go for to connect with you here at the end of the day. So glad to share this connector dot for you on your journey on this topic of imposter syndrome. There are many ways that you can help address it. My biggest is changing your mindset about it, not having this persistent inability to believe that your success is not deserved. You deserve everything you have. You can do it if you set your mind to it. So I will leave you, as always, be bold, advance pharmacy practice, and accelerate your career. I wish you the best, and especially in this time, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.